It is now my pleasure to recognize the chairman of the Immigration Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee, the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Gowdy, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The consensus, Mr. Chairman, in this country is our current immigration system is broken, unworkable, and frankly not in the best interest of our fellow citizens. It is also the consensus that the current system is not being enforced, which undercuts the very foundation of this republic, which is respect for and adherence to the rule of law. Previous attempts at immigration reform proved to be insufficient because if they had been sufficient, we wouldn't be having another hearing or another national conversation about immigration reform. Decisions by administrations, frankly, from both parties to selectively enforce our immigration laws have had a negative effect on our system. In addition, both parties, through the selective enforcement of laws, have undercut the most fundamental of American virtues. Simply put, while most Americans realize the current system does not work, they are also skeptical that Congress will actually do what it is supposed to do, or that this or future administrations will actually enforce what reforms do pass. And this cynicism is well earned. An oft-repeated statistic bears mentioning again, Mr. Chairman, about 40% of those who are in the country unlawfully originally entered through lawful means. So while real and verifiable border security is critical, immigration reform cannot and will not be done without real, verifiable, and robust border security. A sovereign country should never apologize for having a secure border any more than this Congress or this Capitol apologizes for having metal detectors at every single entranceway. But just as border security is a condition precedent, so too is the enforcement of our internal immigration laws if we are going to have a system that works and has any credibility in the eyes of both the American public and those who wish to legally immigrate here. This administration, Mr. Chairman, has in the past claimed to have removed record numbers of unlawful or otherwise removable aliens from the United States, but ICE's own report indicates just last year, more than two-thirds of all removals claimed by ICE involved aliens apprehended by the Border Patrol along the border or intercepted by inspectors at ports of entry. At the same time, under the guise of prosecutorial discretion, the administration has handcuffed federal immigration officers by, and I want you to note the irony, Mr. Chairman, telling law enforcement officers not to enforce the law. Therefore, a sustainable immigration solution needs to have mechanisms to ensure that the president, whether the one we have today or the one we have 10 years from now, cannot simply turn off the switch on enforcement. State and local law enforcement have a role in every single facet of law enforcement. So why can't we give them a role in immigration enforcement? We trust state and local law enforcement officers to enforce every category of law, from murder to child sex cases to narcotics trafficking to child pornography. Mr. Chairman, they even have primary responsibility to patrol and enforce something as inherently interstate as the interstate highway system. But yet we can't seem to muster the confidence in them to give them a role in enforcing our immigration laws. So we trust them with murder cases. We just can't muster the courage to trust them with immigration cases. So I want to know why we can't grant states and localities the specific congressional authorization envisioned by the Supreme Court that allows them to play a supporting role in the enforcement of our immigration laws. There are 5,000 ICE agents that have the responsibility for enforcing our nation's immigration laws. But there are 730,000 state and local law enforcement officers. And let's remember, those state and local law enforcement officers are subject to exactly the same constitutional restrictions as federal law enforcement officers. So in conclusion, Mr. Chairman, if we want a long-term sustainable solution, we have to address interior enforcement. Selective enforcement of the law is destructive to our system. Ignoring laws simply because we wish they weren't laws is destructive to the system. And the result has been a pervasive sense that our law, frankly, just doesn't matter anymore. So, the American people rightfully expect and deserve the laws we pass to actually be enforced. It'd be a good idea if Congress had the same expectation. With that, I would yield back.